happened on the jetty that day was I lost those fish. One of them fell off the line in between the rocks, and the other one broke off from the line and took my lure with it. You know, it's hard to catch big fish over here in the Rockaways. It's one of the toughest places to find big fish. You might have them, but the fact is that a lot of times you're just catching short fish, undersized fish. Most of the time you're not going to get a keeper. I don't know why. Further east you can get them, but over here for some reason it just can't be done. There we go. Cut bass. I knew I'd get one. Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions about fishing here in the Rockaways or anywhere else. You know, for example, the fall run is over in November, that whole thing with the death rats. The fact is, anything can happen at any time with any fish. You know, one of the things that you have here is a late fall run that I believe this year was caused by the extremely warmer waters further north. That delayed the fall run. What if I told you we still had the summer doldrums here, New York City, Rockaways, as late as November, and that the fall run only now is starting? My prediction is that we're going to have much bigger fish coming through all the way through December, which before would have been unheard of. I don't think the fall run is over yet, and it won't be for a few more weeks. Oh, this one's bigger. This is the biggest one. One of the things I've noticed about fishing here in the Rockaways is that we have blitzes taking place just as the sun is going down. I have to explore this further if the same thing is true just as the sun is coming up or right before daybreak. During the day, it's very difficult to catch anything. You might still get some hits if those fish are around. One of those things has to do with the fact that when the sun is setting, it lights up the water column horizontally and it illuminates bait fish more clearly. To the predator, game fish, they can see them more easily when the sun is setting or rising because the sun is facing directly into the water as opposed from the top down, it's going side to side. So I think that's what explains what would be called a time bite. I don't know if the tide has anything to do with it. It could be. But here in these waters, it's pretty hard to know. Also, the size of the bunker here in the surf, basically peanut bunker. I found that the most effective lure around these parts, and that includes Jamaica Bay, is the use of peanut bunker resembling lures. So, sort of like the Bill Lewis rattle traps, those kinds of lures. Everything else hasn't really produced. Eels, super strike darters, although I did see one guy near Deb's Inlet catch a 32-inch striper on what he called a mag darter. It looked to me like a mag. What's it called? A mag darter. It looked to me like a super strike darter. I guess you could catch those fish. You got to be there all the time. Jetties, you know, it's funny. Those schoolie stripers, and I've only caught schoolie stripers here, they were all inshore. They were all right up, practically against the surf. And I was out there with my buddy on the jetty. We're trying to go deep, and those fish were right behind us along the surf. It's usually the other way around. I'm gonna have to keep going out there all month and see what's going on. But the fact is, it's tough fishing, trying to catch big fish. A lot of guys use light tackle for that reason, but at the same time, you never know when you might catch a lunker. It could still happen. There's a lot of people who think that using heavier tackle is more productive. And it could be, you never know, but the fact is, I'm sometimes questioning whether the fish are line shy, whether a heavy tackle kind of spooks them. We don't really have too many big lunkers around here, although you can catch them. I think that heavier line is counterproductive sometimes. I also think that chunking doesn't really work here. All you're getting are sea robins, skates, dogfish. You can catch them on chunks, but it's very hard. The most productive way of catching them here in the Rockaway surf is using lures, like the bunker imitations. Bucktails, not so much. Everybody keeps raving about bucktails. I'm not quite convinced about bucktails. My opinion, bucktails kind of overrated. They don't look like a fish. Even with the trailers, it has to really be realistic looking. Otherwise, the fish kind of ignore it. They won't even touch it. And I know they're down there because I can see them on the sonar. Although I did catch a sea robin on a deadly dick. So I guess that can happen. And on a pink Zoom plastic. So you have to wonder if all those conventional ideas about catching prize game fish, trophy-sized game fish, you gotta wonder if that conventional wisdom works. You gotta try your own things and see what happens. One of the biggest misconceptions about striped bass fishing is that 60 to 65 degree water temperatures are the ideal water temperature at which to catch them. I think that you can go 10 degrees lower than that and still do pretty well. I don't think that striped bass are hung up on the 60 to 65 range. I think you can get them even lower than that. But I think 50, 55, 60, I think that's the more optimal temperature range for catching them. Once you get warmer, well, it's hard to say. I think maybe that's when they start going for colder waters. Certainly if it's like what it is right now, 50, 55, between 50 and 60, that's a pretty good temperature. If they're around, they'll be feeding. But for some reason, chunking doesn't seem to work.